guys, welcome to Suspense She Shed Sunday. My name's Holly. I'm glad you could join me. Today we're going to talk about a serial killer that is not often discussed. On my crime show, I try to get cases that aren't repeats as much and open it up to new discussions. And this guy is a doozy. If you know what doozy is. If you don't mind my Oklahoma accent, then join me. Hit like and subscribe every Sunday. Sometimes before Sunday, I'll have a video come out that you guys hopefully will enjoy. Just hit the subscribe button and you'll know it every time. So let's get started, okay? Today we're talking about a serial killer and pedophile. He killed between 3 and 5 children and molested countless others. As usual, let's start from his childhood. If I have information about the criminal's childhood or serial killer, I try to start from the beginning. That way we have a background and we understand. But there was not a lot of background on this particular serial killer. In fact, there was not a lot of information, period. He was kind of hard to write about, but I did my best. His name's Stanley Everett Rice. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him, but he was born on August 7th, 1942. Rice was raised in a dysfunctional and abusive home in Concord, Massachusetts. I can't say that. Sorry, guys. Massachusetts. Okay, if you're from there, I'm so sorry. I just butchered it. It's a hard one. Massachusetts. I can say Oklahoma all day. Rice had a sister with whom he was close. He was described by many as quiet, polite, shy, and nervous. I also heard on one article that he was sexually abused as a child. I'm not sure the extent of that. In 1959, at the age of 16, Rice served 6 months in a juvenile facility for car theft. In normal situations, Rice did not stutter. He's often called the stuttering drifter serial killer. It was only when he was nervous or when his adrenaline was flowing that others noticed Rice stammer when he spoke. According to Rice's diary, yes, this guy wrote a diary about all of his what he did to all the little kids. He wrote a diary about it. According to Rice's diary, discovered after his 1968 arrest, Rice began molesting boys in 1961 when he was just 19 years old. Let me just put a warning first before I continue, because this case is actually quite graphic and I forgot to do that. This case may be one of my most graphic. This guy wrote a lot in his diary that I'm going to repeat, and a serial killer's mind is a pretty graphic mind, let's just say that. So you guys, if you don't think you can watch this, and it is about little kids, so little boys, and so warning there. If you can't, just head to Pinterest and look up something nice there, and I'll see you next Sunday, okay? That year he wrote in his diary, managed to get a small boy type to do some action for a small price, of course. Oh, this guy's disgusting. In 1962, Rice moved with his parents to Ontario, Canada, where acting on his fantasies elevated from producing child pornography and molestation to murder. A disturbing entry recorded in his diary that year reveals that he was working up to the kill. And he put, I found a Nichols boy, he was 12, conned him into the woods and got him to perform acts. You know what I mean? YouTube don't like to talk about it. I was cooking up for the kill on the afternoon of July 12, 1963. And this is what he had said. And then Rice found 9-year-old Keith Henry fishing along the banks of the Grand River near Kitchener, Ontario. According to his diary in 1968 confession in Florida, Rice said he stabbed the boy to death and buried him in an overgrown area along the riverbank. Afterwards, Rice wrote, remember, graphic, I used a hunting knife on Keith. Wow, was that sexy. Blood everywhere. Disgusting guy. What kind of mind thinks that is sexy. That right there just blows my mind and probably blows yours. How serial killers think is unreal. Like, how is blood everywhere sexy when most of us were just like, it upsets us, but yet you just can't really get into the mind of a serial killer, can you? Keith Henry was reported missing when he did not return home that evening. Following Rice's confession in 1968, authorities from Kitchener and Waterloo searched the area with bulldozers, but were unable to locate Henry's body. His remains are still missing to this day. Sad. In fact, I seen where his mother was talking about, I guess his father had passed away. And she may have now, I can't remember the year, but about how she had kind of got over not being able to locate his body, that she's finally healed from that, and she knew he was in a far better place. So Rice was one of the many suspects questioned by Ontario police at the time. Later, Rice would admit to killing Keith Henry and burying him next to the Grand River. He stated that he had felt terrible about what he had done for the first couple of hours after the killing. But after the burial, I guess he was friends with the boy, and I'm assuming he went to the funeral. I'm not positive, but he went home to his bedroom in the basement of his parents' house, and his remorse simply vanished. It was like a fuse burned out. Can you imagine? Just all of a sudden, funeral's over, you don't care anymore? That's a cold heart. So a reporter named Tony Reinhart was the only interview with Rice that was ever done. Tony had said that a single tear came down his face when he was discussing the murder of Keith Henry. He stated that the serial killer had seemed very timid and childlike, saying Keith Henry was actually his friend, and that he felt the saddest about his death of all the deaths that had occurred, which I don't believe that's true. I think he was just saying that. It doesn't sound like he had any guilt to me. During the 35 months between the murder of Keith Henry and the second confirmed homicide victim, Rice was twice incarcerated, served time in an Ontario prison for burglary in an uninsured motor vehicle. So he had a break between his killings there. But he got out, and then his second victim was Tim Trask, who his father described as a good-sized boy, blonde-haired and blue-eyed, who weighed about 75 pounds and stood 4 feet 7 inches. Tim caught snakes and frogs. He just loved animals and often took his pet beagle Bellstar for walks in the woods. He built tree houses and forts and loved the outdoors. He would have entered the 4th grade that year if he had lived. His father said, "The person who did this is nothing but a mad animal." At that time, they didn't know who had killed him. So on June 10th, 1966, while scouting for victims along the banks of the Blanchard River near Findlay, Ohio, Rice came upon 8-year-old Tim Trask, who was fishing alone. He loved to fish on the first day of his summer vacation. When Trask failed to return home that evening, his parents notified police and a search party was organized for the following day. 24 hours after he was murdered, a member of the search party spotted Trask's arm protruding from a woodpile 1 mile from his home. His red and white bicycle, fishing rod, and a glass jar of minnows were found nearby. Although it would take 2 more years before Trask's killer was identified, Rice described the boy's murder in his diary in a gruesome detail. Warning again. This is what he said. "Scores again as I met an 8-year-old boy fishing. Finally conned him into trying a new fishing spot. I was there about an hour but failed to con him into the usual style position. Had to settle for a shirtless photo, but got more interesting poses after a 32 in the back, put him in a more suggestive mood. So basically, he shot him in the back. You might not want to hear this, I'm not sure. The usual style pose was Rice's term to describe his preference to photograph boys while they were going to the bathroom. I'm not going to say any more than that because it's disgusting. Although Rice wrote that he killed Trask with the .32 caliber bullet, the coroner said that he had actually been killed by a shotgun and 2 knife wounds. Basically, his MO was like he would just catch them while they were fishing or down by the river, whatever kids were down that way, and that's how he would come up on them, try to be their friend and get them away from everybody else, and then he would start his whatever he decided to do with them. Sick mind he has. Unbelievable. Not long after murdering Trask, Rice tried and failed to photograph 2 other boys, 9 and 14, who he said in his diary, lived to make me regret not finishing them off. His regret was realized 1 month later when police decided to search his home. And unfortunately for the future boys, the police did not find much. He said, police all come from me. They searched my room for secular photos but failed to find the news clippings and personal photos from the June 10th deal. Trask is what he was talking about. And also missed the murder weapon in my car along with the death bullets hidden behind my curtain. They'll be sorry as now I can strike again and again, showing all the world what a fantastic life that can be led if one is careful. This is a hard one, guys, I'm telling you. This search and police suspicion of Stanley Rice never made it into the newspapers. It appears, however, that Ohio became too hot for Rice, so he just left the state. And he left the state in 1966. And he moved on because he thought there was too much pressure there, at the time. So in January of 1968, Rice was arrested in his hometown of Concordia. I am not going to say Massachusetts. Oh, sorry, I said it. But I'm not going to try it again. We're just going to say Concordia from now on, where he had resumed his quest to force boys to pose for photographs. These boys reported him to police and told how they had been lured by Rice to another location, forced to strip at gunpoint, photographed, and in some instances, photographed while, using the bathroom again. What his deal was with that, I don't know. Some people are really sick. That's all I can say. So authorities, all the policemen, cops, whatever, were so disturbed by all these allegations, and it is disgusting and disturb anybody. Well, I think it would. That it was decided that before any criminal legal proceedings could begin, Rice should be committed to the mental hospital. So he went there for 35 days of observation. But he did escape from that institution on February 16th. This is when he went to Florida to begin his horrible, horrible, evil stuff. There he was befriended by Leslie Dean, father of 8 and the owner of an automobile salvage yard. In exchange for being the night watchman, Rice was allowed to sleep on the property, and he actually slept on one of the vehicles there. It was an ice cream vehicle. And he worked at a car wash. Oklahoma, we say wash, not wash. So I'm sorry about that. Dean had nothing but good things to say about Rice and described him as quite intelligent, honest, and considerate. He never argues and never loses his temper. On October 1968, this was actually on Mother's Day. Mother's Day, guys. Picture that. Rice worked at the car wash until it was closed at 1 p.m. At 3:30 that afternoon, he made his way to a pond. And we can't even imagine what he's going to do there. What's he going to do next? Well, we know it's going to be evil, don't we? Rice knew the pond was popular with local boys, and on that day he found 11-year-old Lowell and Kevin 10 fishing. The details of exactly what happened are unclear, but Rice engaged the boys in friendly small talk and then attempted to lure them to a different location because he thought maybe that was a bad location. So he was trying to get them somewhere else. The boys refused to leave that location. So they were like, I guess they were thinking something's not quite right, and they were correct. And that actually ends up at least saving one of the little boys' lives. And then I guess one or both of them made a remark that really made Rice mad. Rice got angry, pulled a sawed-off shotgun out of one of his knee-high rubber boots, and shot little Lowell in the chest. Unfortunately, he did pass away. He then turned and fired his remaining shell at Kevin. He was wounded but not dead. Rice bent over Lowell and stabbed him 3 times with the carved knife. At that exact moment, 2 teenage boys walking along a path near the canal, thank God they did. They stumbled along the little wounded Kevin, and Rice standing over him holding a bloody knife. Oh, these poor boys, they walked right in the middle of it, but thank God or Kevin would not be alive. When Kevin saw them, he pointed at his attacker and mumbled, "He did it! He did it!" Rice stuttered back, "He doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's make a deal. I'm from out of town. We don't need the cops." Instead of answering him, the 2 teenage boys walked over to the body of little Lowell. Rice then put the sawed-off shotgun back in his boot and walked away. Wow, if they had to have seen that shotgun. They were brave boys to do that. He returned to the salvage yard where he talked a lot about the actual murder to Leslie Dean's teenage sons. I guess it was at the salvage yard. And he said, "I don't see why anybody would want to do that. Just kill a little boy and walk away." He was talking like he didn't know what happened. He was captured on May 25th after he was pulled over speeding by a deputy. Another officer who assisted the deputy noticed Rice stutter and remembered a sketch and description of the Mother's Day killer. After Rice was arrested, they found the sawed-off shotgun and a camera in his car. So witness shown the photograph confirmed Rice was the one that was seen at the pond. Later that day, Rice confessed to shooting the boys and said he had killed 4 people in Ohio and in Ontario, including Keith Henry and Tim Trask. So Rice also told them about a cache of photos, guns, and other weapons inside an old barn. So there, police found some pornographic photographs described as a large amount of photos of young boys unclothed who were posed with various weapons aimed at their bodies. Really weird and disturbing. Rice was charged with murder in all 3 jurisdictions, with Florida taking the first shot at him. A few days before his trial began, Rice and his public defender lost a motion to have him declared mentally incompetent. They were trying to say that Rice had schizophrenia, but the judge said he was sane enough. Good for the judge. With their only chance gone, Rice pleaded guilty to first-degree murder on Monday, November 18th, the day his trial was to start. On Friday, the judge sentenced him to life in prison with the recommendation that he never be paroled. They said Rice did speak of murdering 4 people in Ohio and Ontario. Deputies have not been able to confirm these stories. They said that Rice really liked to boast about his murders, which a lot of them do, it seems like. When he boasted, he stated that 3 victims were found and 1 wasn't, and they often thought he was referring to Keith Henry, who was never found. They never confirmed that kill, but they're pretty sure it was him, just according to his diaries. There was that one entry in the diary that they believe talked about Tim Trask's murder. Rice wrote, "I couldn't help myself and pumped a .32 into the better of the two's back. The bullet got him beautifully in the heart area from behind, right in the spinal cord. You could see that, this is weird, totally weird, that you could see that sexy bullet hole. Thank God he died in prison on November 3rd, 2007. He was 65 years old when he died. He actually lived a lot longer than he deserved after all that. Until his diary is, if it's ever released to the public, it will remain unclear who Rice's fourth and fifth victims were, if they existed. But they do think that he killed, and I'm sure he probably did, kill more than we actually know about. These poor boys and their families, I can't imagine. I have two boys myself. Of course, they're pretty much grown. But still, I can't even imagine how it would feel that your children would die before you. And especially in such a horrible, horrible manner. And how anybody could take the lives of these innocent boys is beyond me. And do such horrible things to them. And this was a very hard case for me to even get through. And I'm sure it was a hard case for you to listen to. I hate that all my stories end in a sad note. One of these days I'm going to have to find a story that doesn't end in a sad way. But when it comes to crime cases, that's almost impossible. So I hope you have a good week. And I'm glad you joined me here in my she shed. It's a little bitty building, but I got a little second floor loft area, I guess you'd say. And I'm actually setting up here because I think it's a little warmer and it's cold right now in Oklahoma. And hope you'll join me next time. Hopefully it's a little warmer in here. And hope you join me next Sunday. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I am so glad to have you guys. But right now I'm going to go into a warm house with a fireplace and a husband that is cooking my meal. Bye guys. Have a great week.